we explained on a high level the enterprise anatomy, the concept of domains, the concept of processes, and the concept of telecom applications. So where is the orchestration? Okay. So the first spot, okay, customer order management, service order management, resource order management. This application is level 1 application. If you dig in this application and you go to level 2, you see a service orchestration capability. So that's why usually teams or departments working on different domains, if there is no real good sense of enterprise architecture, they will always have a confrontation when it comes to orchestration, because each one believe that he should own the orchestration. But actually, the orchestration is not a generic term, right? Orchestration is there per domain. So in a customer domain, there is an orchestration capability in the COM. In the service domain, there is an orchestration capability in the SOM, service order management. And in the resources domain, there is an orchestration capability in the resource order management. And I'm bringing here the breakdown so that you can have really a clue about it. So service order management, from standards perspective, and even people working on the SOM level, and usually SOM is actually the interaction between the BSS or the IT and the network, according to how you name that in your environment. But under service order management, there is a concept of service order orchestration. So there's an orchestration on the service order. So actually, what is a service order? Imagine that from a customer domain, a certain customer purchased a certain service that actually consists of, for example, he purchased an SD-WAN service. So he is having like a new branch, and he's onboarding like a new security firewall. So a mix of two things, right? A new branch, and let me just see the chat. Okay, so like is a new branch and a new VAS, value-added service, a new firewall. So this kind of order or request will come to the SOM from the customer order management. And the service order orchestration perspective, he must know that this order must be decomposed into two services. One will go to bring up the new branch, and one will go to bring up the new VNF. For sure, it's a very informative example. We will have a section for the orchestration flows, so don't worry about that. I'm just building up, as I said. So if you go to SOM, you find that there is a concept of service order orchestration responsible of two things: service order decomposition to the underlying domain, to the resources domain, and service order tracking and management to make sure that the service order is fulfilled. For example, the branch is fulfilled first, and then you do the VAS. And once you do that, you go and update the inventory. So this kind of brain, okay, is there in the orchestration under the SOM. So it is there in service layer, it is there in the customer domain, it is there in the resources domain. So people starting to fight about where to position the orchestrator and who owns it should have seen the big picture coming out of TAM or TMF as a reference. And as I said, enterprise architecture, they have really an essential role in that. The other spot for the orchestration is actually, you can find the orchestration as some sort of horizontal capability that spans across multiple processes in a certain domain. And what does that mean? And why is that more, I would say, practical approach to map to a product, to commercial products? Because you can have an orchestrator that have some sort of horizontal capability that include an inventory, that includes the function of a SOM, and includes also an assurance capabilities. And that's actually, if you see any orchestration in the market, you will find these ingredients in that. So an orchestrator can be a horizontal capability that group multiple applications from multiple processes. And again, that's the case in many orchestrators in the market. It is there in the service. Also, you will see that it is there in the resources. So as a takeaway, for the orchestration positioning, and that's the last slide before we explain the orchestration bricks, that one, orchestration exists in multiple domains. You have to know that. There can be an orchestration in the resources domain, like the ETN FVO, and I will explain that. It can be there in a services domain, like service orchestrator, domain orchestrator, okay? It can be there in the customer domain or in the IT or in the BSS part of the COM. So we have to flexibly acknowledging that. Orchestration can be part of an application, like it can be embedded in a SOM or a COM. It doesn't have to be a product like an orchestration product. It can be there in the SOM because of the decomposition capability and service tracking. So that's a function also of an orchestrator. Orchestration can be a capability that spans across multiple processes. And I'm telling you, the majority of the orchestrators in the market, they are thinking of the same mentality. Any kind of orchestrator in the market, you will find a catalog. So that's coming from the strategy process. You will find an inventory coming from the OSR. You will find an order management coming from the fulfillment. And you will find also some assurance capabilities coming from the assurance. That's why some people like to say that orchestration on the service level is a next generation OSS. I don't acknowledge the term because there is no definition for that, but they see that that's the future of the OSS, like a new wave for OSS to have all these like legacy OSS applications or legacy OSS systems as part of one orchestrator, horizontal orchestrator. And the last thing, and that's interesting, we said that orchestration exists in multiple domains and they span across multiple processes, but also some market solutions, they provide orchestration solutions that span across multiple domains. For example, you can find one orchestrator taking care of the resources domain, also having capability on the service domain. And that's very common in some of the market solutions. We can have a look on that if you have time. But from a community perspective, open source Manu, for example, OSM, and I will explain that, it has both capabilities. So it can take care of the resources, like resources orchestration, integrate with OpenStack, integrate with Kubernetes, integrate with AWS as a normal orchestrator. And then also it can provision services like slicing, like end-to-end real service. Okay. So that's the main takeaways, and this is the foundation that I needed to explain before we explain the bricks of the orchestration.